And good morning, everybody, and welcome to day 25 of our virtual field trips. Holy crow. So, just before we get into today's topic, which is sun and water, I just want to acknowledge that today is the day that we were supposed to be open to the public for the season. By now, we should have hired all of our staff, we should have gotten everything ready, we've got new signage on site, we've got new buildings on site, I've got all sorts of exciting things to show you, except that we're not actually open yet for the season. Hopefully, my best guess is in maybe a month and a half. Anyways, today's topic is all about sun and water in a bunch of different ways. And for those of you just joining us, the recipe for today, the thing that we're making in a few minutes, will be right at the end. So just stay tuned and watch to the end, and then we'll show how sun and water turn into our recipe. Now, it also happens to be almost exactly the 2-year anniversary of when sun and water interacted with this site in a pretty negative way. You see, right now I'm sitting on a bridge overlooking Karamius Creek. Karamius Creek runs right through the property. It's what gives water to our water wheel to actually grind the flour that we grind. And every once in a while, it gets a little temperamental. And 2 years ago, it got exceedingly high. We had a flood year. Now, let me show you what I'm looking at right now. So here's our creek. There's the mill itself right now. And what you might notice is down below, there is this little rock wall. That rock wall helps keep the creek away from the old building. Well, right now, if I'm looking at it, there's about 2 feet between the top of the water and the top of the rocks. Well, that time, 2 years ago, we actually sandbagged the top of those rocks by almost a foot because the creek had come up so high. It just happened that a really heavy precipitation winter followed by a quick warm up and rain meant a lot of water came down very, very quickly. And so sun and water interacted and created some significant flooding issues. In fact, further down the creek, if we go all the way down to where our campground is, we had the entire campground sandbagged to a height of 1.5 feet, almost 2 feet deep. We figured there were almost 2,500 or 3,000 sandbags. Kind of amazing. Well, there are other ways that, water and sun interact on our site. And we visited one of those places earlier this year when we visited our little greenhouse. Now, our greenhouse is empty now because all the things that we wanted to protect early on in the season are doing much, much better. In fact, if you just look over my shoulder here, there's a whole bunch of plants there. We've got tomatoes that are going out. We've got some zuccas. We've got a variety of things. I actually can't even see my screen. It's so bright out. So, those are just 2 ways that sun and water interact with our site. I will actually, going back to the flooding thing for a second, I want to point out one more thing, and that's that there are actually 3 sources of water that can flood for us around here. So the Karamius Creek, which we just visited, is one of them. But if I come up here to the road and I look across the road, you can see the hills uphill from us. There's a nice vineyard right here. But right in here, now it doesn't happen very often, but every once in a while in the spring, as things thaw, a lot of water can come down there. And it came down right to this corner where the creek comes down to, and then ends up in a ditch that goes on the far side of the road. Well, there was so much water coming down that creek that it actually scoured and picked up a lot of sand and gravel and brought it all the way down into the ditch. And the ditch actually filled with gravel all the way up to the surface of the road. That meant the creek water had nowhere to go, and it actually did 2 things. First, it took a straight line across the road and went right down my neighbor's driveway. But when we finally sandbagged the corner, it started just sheeting across the road and caused all sorts of damage. You can't always predict these things. They just kind of happen. Now, they dug the ditch a lot deeper, and we haven't seen a year like that since, fortunately. This doesn't look like it's going to be a particularly bad year this year for flooding. That said, when that all happened, it reminded us that historically there have been floods in this area, and not even that little draw or Karamius Creek but the Similkameen River has flooded a number of times. So in the comments, how about this? How about I'm going to try do this right now. Let's see if I can do this. I've just put a link for you for later. That link is to recordings that we made 2 years ago from diaries from 1894. 2 different stories surrounding the great floods here in the Similkameen Valley. And they're funny, they're harrowing, they're interesting. Just try to imagine living through them. It's something else. Now, I am coming over to our herb garden here for the last part of what we're doing today. Now, we haven't finished cleaning all the leaves out of it. We leave the leaves in it in the winter so that it can help protect everything. It's sort of a natural mulch. We take all of that out later on. Now, I was hoping that these would be a little further along, but they're not yet. You can see right there, that is a mint plant. I was hoping we might have a little bit more for what we're going to do next, but that's not going to work out. It's okay. I come prepared. So, on to today's recipe, on to today's thing that we're making. Because it's such a beautiful and sunny day, and because we're talking about sun and we're talking about water, what we're going to make today is sun tea. Now, I don't know if you've ever made sun tea before. Couldn't be simpler. Basically, we're going to take a jar. We're going to take fresh cold water. We are going to put tea bags or herbs in it, and we're going to let the sun do all the work. Instead of pouring hot water in it and getting it right away, we have to be patient. But sometimes patience is a virtue. The flavor of sun tea is actually quite different than the flavor of a hot brewed tea that you then put on ice. So I'm just going down to the garden here where I've already got all of our ingredients set up. So let's do that. Oh, what a nice day. What a good Friday. Okay, here we are. Let's turn the camera around. Perfect. Okay. So what I have here already is some tea that I made before. Right there. And it's been sitting. It actually sat in the sun yesterday afternoon for about 6 hours. Now, to make sun tea, all we're going to do is just take... Now, this is a big jar. This is a 2 liter, 1.9 liter jar. These are big jars. And I've got 4 Earl Grey tea bags. You don't have to use Earl Grey. You can use whatever kind of tea you'd like. But just make sure you like the flavor of it. If I'd had mint still in the garden, I would have actually picked some mint. I could have put that in. Earl Grey goes really nice with lavender. So if you have any lavender, dried lavender from last year, you could put that in. There are lots of different things. If you know your herbs, if you know your garden, if you know what's safe and tasty and interesting, you can experiment. But basically, you're going to put that in the jar, and then you're going to add a whole lot of cold, fresh water. Now, as you can see, unlike with warm water, it doesn't look like anything's happening. And it takes a while for everything to warm up enough in the sun to actually turn into our sun tea. Now, if you like sugar, just put it in at the end when you actually, when you've got this all done. You can put sugar in it, or honey, or some low-calorie sweetener like stevia if you'd prefer. You can certainly add some slices of fresh lemon, whatever you'd like. Now, because we're making this with cold water and we're letting it sit in the sun, this does not have the shelf life that an iced tea that you made with hot boiling water is going to have. You want to, when you're done, when this is done after 5 or 6 hours at whatever strength you like, you're going to take it, you're going to put it inside the fridge, and you're going to drink it in the next day. An iced tea that you make with hot water is going to last a day or two longer. Now, the only other thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a cover over it to keep the bugs out. There we go. And then we can come back later on this afternoon when we're done all of our chores, and we can drink it. So make sure you check out the links on those reminiscences from the 1890s, the flood here in Karameas. I think you'll find them really quite entertaining. I hope you give it a chance to try and make some sun tea. There it is right there. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. It has a much more mellow flavor. but it's still absolutely delicious. And all it takes is patience. You can experiment. And I hope that you have a fantastic weekend. I know that we're going to. We were hoping to get down to Vancouver yesterday, but for a variety of reasons, including that our can van, as I call it, is in the shop. So we didn't get a chance to get down yesterday, but it looks like we'll be going down on Monday. So if any of you live in the Lower Mainland, you're watching this video, and there's something you'd like us to bring down to you, feel free to go on our website and order it, and we'll deliver it right to your door, quite happily. Anyways, I will see you guys next week. Stay safe, take care of each other, keep washing your hands, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye-bye for now.